A mysterious child is adopted by villagers. Turns out they're the key to stopping a rising evil. In the flickering shadows of the night, the village of Heronstone lay under a blanket of thick fog. The air was tense, heavy with the whispers of an ancient prophecy that no one dared to speak aloud. But the villagers couldn't ignore the feeling. Something was coming, and the child, Mira, was the only one who could stop it. It was just another stormy night when the villagers found her, small, abandoned, and silent. She lay in the dirt near the old well, her eyes wide and glassy, as if she'd seen the world unravel before she even came into it. Mira. No one knew where she came from. No one knew who she was. The villagers, heartbroken by the sight, took her in, but there was something unsettling about her. At first, she seemed like any other orphan. She grew quickly, her quiet demeanor a stark contrast to the lively bustle of the village. Her laughter, when it did come, was gentle, almost distant, like a song carried by the wind. But there were moments when the light in her eyes flickered, moments when she would stand alone at the village's edge, staring out into the dark forest as if she could hear something that no one else could. It wasn't long before strange things began to happen. At first it was small, children's toys moving on their own, birds taking flight at the slightest gesture of her hand. But it escalated. At night, villagers would wake to hear whispers on the wind, and Mira, always Mira, would stand by the village gates, her head turned toward the mountains beyond. One cold evening, as the full moon cast eerie shadows on the land, the ground beneath the village trembled. The great stone walls of Heronstone cracked open, as if something deep within the earth had awakened. The villagers panicked. They had heard the legends, the stories passed down from generation to generation of a rising darkness, a force that would return to consume the world once more. Mira, with her strange, unsettling connection to the land, was their only hope. Old Mabel, the village elder, called for a meeting under the moonlight. Her voice was shaky, but her words cut through the fear like a knife. There was a prophecy, she said, a prophecy about a child born from nothing, a child who would possess the power to stop the evil that once tore the world apart. A child who would rise from the ashes and hold the key to the land's salvation. The villagers turned their eyes to Mira, who stood at the edge of the circle, silent as always, but her face betrayed nothing. Could it be? Could this quiet, mysterious girl truly be the one they had been waiting for, the one to stop the ancient evil? But fear stirred in the hearts of the villagers. They saw her abilities, her power to control nature, to call the wind and the storm. Was this power something to be trusted, or was it something more, something darker, something that would ultimately bring the doom they had feared for centuries? As the days passed, the evil in the mountains began to stir in earnest. Creatures of darkness, twisted by some malevolent force, crawled from the shadows, their eyes burning with hunger. The land itself began to wither, trees turned to ash, the crops died, and the rivers ran dry. Mira stood at the center of the village, her hands clenched in determination, but the villagers hesitated. Could they truly trust her? Her powers were terrifying. She could manipulate the earth, summon storms, and bend the elements to her will. What if those powers turned against them? The village was torn. Some begged Mira to help them, while others feared the consequences of trusting a child who could unleash destruction just as easily as salvation. One fateful night, as the village lay under siege by the dark creatures, Mira stood at the heart of the village square. Her eyes, normally soft and gentle, burned with an intensity the villagers had never seen before. "I don't want this power," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't ask for it, but I will do what I must to protect this place. And you." With those words, she reached into the earth, and the ground rumbled violently beneath her feet. The very world seemed to bend in response. She wasn't controlling it, she was becoming it. The earth, The wind, the rain, they were all part of her now. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the evil forces retreated. The darkness that had threatened the village was banished. The land began to heal. The crops grew, the rivers flowed, and the sky cleared. But as the first rays of dawn touched Heronstone, Mira stood alone on the hill outside the village, gazing out at the horizon. The villagers celebrated their victory, but Mira felt a deep emptiness inside her. She had given everything, her childhood, her peace, her innocence, to save them. Her power was the key to the village's survival, but it came with a price. She could never return to the life she once knew. She could never be just a child again. As the villagers gathered around her, a sense of awe and gratitude filled the air, but they all knew this was the end of an era. The child they had adopted was no longer just a part of their village. She was something greater, a legend, forever etched into the world's history. Mira disappeared into the wilderness after that day, never to be seen again. Some say she lives in the mountains, guarding the land from any future threats. Others believe she became one with the earth itself, her power forever linked to the world's pulse. And as the years passed, Heronstone thrived. But the villagers often wondered, was Mira truly the child of prophecy, or was she something else, something beyond understanding? Her legacy lived on in every whisper of the wind, every rustle of the trees, every thunderstorm that rolled across the horizon. The mystery of her life and her powers remained unanswered. But one thing was certain, Mira would never be forgotten. Some heroes are not born. They are made through sacrifice, fear, and fate. And in the case of Mira, the orphan who changed everything, the village would never again be the same. What if we all had a secret power waiting to be awakened? What would we do with it?